Over the past few weeks, we have gotten ourselves accustomed to the new 2026 Mazda CX-5. One trim that I have not featured yet, though, is the Preferred. And quite possibly, this is the pick for this new generation. In today's video, we're going to check out what this new Preferred has to offer us. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why the features that Mazda added on to this model might just make this the best bang for your buck if you're looking at buying a compact crossover under $40,000. Now, before I dive into this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Ira Mazda in Westwood, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Mazda CX-5 once again. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Mazda inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2026 Mazda CX-5 Preferred we're taking a look at today, you have a starting cost of just under $35,000. Now in this market, as it's emerged, going a bit more upscale, becoming very pricey, $35,000 doesn't always signify a great vehicle that gives you all the creature comforts and amenities. But what Mazda has done here with their middle trim, sitting between the Select and Premium, is made the compact crossover market once again attainable and also desirable. As we take a look at the exterior of this model, nothing too different compared to the Premium and the Select, although it's all going to come down to the lighting here. So up front, you are going to receive LED headlights and LED daytime running lights. The only sad thing here, we don't have the signature lighting, which looks so much more classy and upscale on this new generation. For the front grille itself, yes, Mazda got rid of the gloss black trim here, and they put plastic. You have the Mazda emblem, so similar to last generation, and outlining the grille is no longer chrome, but brushed aluminum accents, which does look really nice here on this new paint color. Let's talk about that for a minute. So with this new paint color, it is navy blue, and it really pops on camera. It looks really nice, and I gotta say, if you're looking for somewhat of a lower profile vehicle, not with a bright color, this is really truly classy. Now for the lower portion of the front bumper, here we have some cladding once again, so if you are going off-road or maybe taking on snow-covered roadways, that will deflect some of that debris, also won't scratch up the paint there up front. Now making our way over to the side profile, we're going to have some cladding here for the wheel arches, so no gloss black trim, no full paint finish for the Preferred, unfortunately, and that cladding extends along the side profile. However, I really do like the 19-inch alloy wheel setup here that we have on the Preferred. This really stands out in the lineup and is a nice upgrade of what you're going to find from the Select. Now with 19-inch alloy wheels though, that might create some road noise, might create some harshness to the overall ride quality. We'll talk about that later on during the test drive, but it matches really well with this navy blue paint color. Now, a bit more understated here with the Preferred, you are going to have gloss black side mirror caps with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. You're also going to receive gloss black roof rails, giving you a bit more definition to this crossover. Then as we make our way around to the back here, you're going to notice the LED taillights in that U shape. Unfortunately though, since this is a Preferred, it doesn't extend into the liftgate itself. I would love to see that on the Preferred and other trims. It just gives you a bit more character and makes this crossover look a bit more upscale. So if you want that lighting system, you want the signature lighting, you're going to have to pay a little extra for the Premium or Premium Plus. Also, one thing of note here along the side profile is that you're going to notice the aggressive and more pronounced C-pillars and also the higher roof line. So with that, you're going to have better practicality. You're also going to have a bit more interior space. We'll talk about that later on. But also now, the CX-5 no longer looks like a hatchback. Instead, it's a true compact crossover, and this shows that Mazda is very serious about competing in this class. For the lower portion of the rear bumper, here we have some more cladding that connects into the side profile and extends downward to the rear diffuser. However, we do get dual exhaust outlets here on the CX-5, and Mazda at this point is just teasing us because this looks sporty, this looks aggressive, but Mazda is not going to appease their 10% of buyers who want a turbo powertrain. Instead, they're going to focus on the 90% who are just looking for a great point A to point B vehicle. But if there are any Mazda executives watching this video, give us that turbo. But guys, let me know what you think about the exterior of this CX-5 and more importantly, this color. I really like the navy blue on this CX-5. Powering this Mazda CX-5 today is going to be a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, producing 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. And best of all, it is paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission. Many vehicles in this market, from Subaru, from Nissan, are going to give you a CVT. But with the 6-speed auto, it's going to make this crossover feel a bit more athletic and agile, and also still tuned for that enthusiast, for someone who wants more than just a point A to point B vehicle. Now, for 2026, all-wheel drive has become standard here, so that way you have better year-end capability and versatility. And then when it pertains to that fuel economy, you're looking at right on 24 miles per gallon in the city and 30 miles per gallon on the highway, which is pretty similar to a lot of naturally aspirated 4-cylinders in this class. But if you do want better efficiency, hold off of that hybrid powertrain coming sometime near the end of this year or early next year. Hopping inside the Preferred, this is where you're going to notice a massive leap, a massive jump from the base S and Select to this particular model. If you don't need leather trim seats, if you don't need a large infotainment system, at $35,000, this is a steal. This is an absolute steal in the compact crossover market, and it all begins with these seats. So up front, you are going to have heated leatherette trim seats for both the driver and passenger. You're also going to notice this microfiber or cloth-like material for the inserts, giving you a lot of grip. Now, these seats are not going to be aggressively bolstered, but if you're on a winding back road, you're not sliding out of these seats, and they're more comfortable than the full cloth seats that we saw out of the Select. Also, by going with the Preferred, the driver's side does have power adjustability and lumbar support. Really, really nice there. Then from there, you don't need to look much further for more features, such as a head-up display with traffic sign recognition and a digital speedometer. That is rare to find here at $35,000. So you're not looking down at the digital gauge cluster, you're not looking at the infotainment system. This is a nice premium feature to see here at this particular price point. Also on top of this, in front of you will be a full digital gauge cluster functioning the exact same way as a Select, as the Premium and Premium Plus. On the steering wheel, on your leather-wrapped, heated steering wheel, I should say, you can have aggressive 10 and 2 and firm 9 and 3 grips, and then the same button layout. So you will have a drive mode selector here where you can easily scroll through normal, sport, and off-road. Personally, I like normal. That's just my take here with this vehicle, the way in which Mazda has tuned this engine and platform. Now, of course, you can adjust this digital gauge cluster to your liking. You have 3 different layouts, a minimal display showing your fuel economy, also your digital speedometer, traffic sign recognition, then your lane centering and your adaptive cruise control settings. And then lastly is going to be your average MPGs. And in some ways, this kind of reminds me of the older BMW digital gauge clusters. So it's not going to be super in-depth here compared to some rivals in this class, but I will say though that this is a nice classy layout here that's simplified and won't create too much of a learning curve. So that is going to be really nice here for a lot of you. Making our way over to the infotainment system, here we have this new touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation, since it does have Android-based software. What I really do like here out of this vehicle is that, for one, the screen is not too big like we have with the Premium Plus. That's just overkill. But also, since we do have Android-based software here, the layout is very similar to other vehicles in this class that utilize similar software. So at the bottom of the screen will be your quick access icons for your dual zone climate control, your fan speed, your heated front seats, your heated steering wheel, also your AC. Next to that will be your row of buttons for your home screen, your navigation, your radio, then your widgets. So if you have experienced Android-based software before, it's all going to be placed on this screen with your Google Assistant, Google Play Store, Google Maps, your energy monitor, which will likely be useful when you have a hybrid powertrain coming sometime at the end of the year or early next year. Also your eye active sense for your safety systems. You can also check out your efficiency as well. And best of all, you have YouTube. So if you want to park and sit around for a bit, you can watch some car reviews by using that YouTube tab. Now, there will be your vehicle icon as well. And from here, there is some overlapping with the functionality because you have a drive mode selector right here. Also, you can turn on or off your auto start stop, your traction control on and off, your hill descent control. Next to that will be your safety systems, which honestly, I would leave a lot of this on for added assurance and peace of mind when you get behind the wheel on a daily basis. And then lastly here, we didn't talk about this with the seats. So you have a power adjustable driver's seat, but with that, you also have 2-position memory out of the Preferred. This is kind of rare to see. You would expect it to be only reserved for the Premium and Premium Plus, but Mazda threw that in here for a vehicle at this price point. Really impressive stuff. Now, when you place the CX-5 in reverse, you are going to have a rear backup camera with trajectory. It is multi-angle as well. So you have a 180-degree view, giving you better visibility when you are parking on city streets or parking out of a garage. And then you have your standard rear camera here. So good stuff. Also, I like the fact that the screen is rather large, because out of a CX-50, out of a last generation CX-5, that backup camera was minuscule. It was really, really small. Continuing on, beneath the head unit, you're going to find 2 center-mounted air vents, but then also your hazards, and then 2 buttons for your front and rear defrosters. For the center console itself, the first thing you're going to notice, no gloss black trim. I think people are going to like this a lot more. It's going to be easier to clean, easier to maintain. However, you still get a leather-wrapped shift knob here, which is really nice to see. Next out will be your electronic parking brake, auto vehicle hold. You have 2 cup holders and a small cubby for a wallet or smaller items. Then for the standard storage compartment, set up exactly like the last generation CX-5 and also with the CX-50. You can have your wireless phone charging pad here. And then for the storage compartment itself, it's not super large, so you could probably store some wallets, smartphones, other tech gadgets, but nothing too big like a 17-ounce water bottle. So definitely keep that in mind. And then to round out the front seating area, we don't have a power moonroof, so if you want that, you got to go with the premium. Then for passengers in the second row, this isn't necessarily a feature, but a huge improvement from last generation. You're looking at right on 40 inches of legroom, which would be on par with the Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, Volkswagen Tiguan SEL R-Line Turbo, the Kia Sportage, and Hyundai Tucson. This was much needed. This was very much needed here in this class and for this particular nameplate, because Americans want more interior space. If they're going to have kids in the second row, they're going to demand that legroom. They want that interior room. On top of this, the second row seats are placed a little bit lower to the ground than they were before, maximizing headroom. And that is a big difference compared to the CX-50. With the CX-50, you have a lower roof line, so tall passengers might be hitting their head on the headliner. In the CX-5, though, that is not going to be a problem at all. Also back here, you're going to notice an aggressive center hump, but I do think with the CX-5 and its newer dimensions, it's wide enough to accommodate a third person in the center. So really great stuff there. You can have 2 center-mounted air vents, and then unfortunately, we can't have everything here out of the preferred. There's no 2 USB-C outlets, so no connectivity for passengers in the back if they want to charge up their smartphones. However, they are going to receive a center armrest with 2 cup holders. And if all of that wasn't enough for the interior, with the preferred, you're also going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right on 33.7 cubic feet of room, which is a huge improvement over the outgoing generation. So much like with the second row, the cargo space also benefits from this upsizing for this nameplate, because the last generation, I think, came in at around 25 or 26, so a healthy increase. And this will be right in line with the Subaru Forester, Subaru Outback, similar to the Volkswagen Tiguan, so it's right in line with its closest rivals here when it comes to the overall practicality. I was able to fit all my camera gear today with no issues. That's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And because we have that higher roof line now, you can easily stack on probably 7, 8, 9 bags of luggage. So a lot of flexibility here with the CX-5. Also on both sides of the cargo area will be some cubbies for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Also beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Also, just like we saw last generation and for the CX-50, you can continue to lower the second row seats. And when they are lowered, you're looking at right around 66 cubic feet. So again, very practical, very flexible. And if you're someone who does have a growing family, this is going to be a great bridge as you hop out of a CX-30 into a CX-5, and then maybe a CX-70 or CX-90 down the road. So setting off on our test drive with the 2026 Mazda CX-5 Preferred, a lot of you got on me in the comment section with the select and premium reviews where I didn't do a test drive. I didn't think it was necessary. It's all the same. It's all the same when it comes to its performance. Same powertrain, same transmission, same suspension. All right, tire size is a bit of a different story, so maybe a select test drive would have been pretty smart on my end. But honestly, aside from features, the CX-5 is very consistent across all trims. However, with this being the preferred, with this likely being the best seller for the model, we got to do an in-depth review. So that's what we're going to do here today. Going to be on the back roads for most of this test drive to see how this crossover performs. I'm going to be honest, with the CX-5, I've warmed up to it a bit more, especially having just hopped out of a CX-50. And honestly, with the CX-50, yes, it's a more dynamic crossover. Yes, it's more tactile and analog, things that people are looking for out of Mazda. However, with the head unit more specifically, I've grown to like it in Mazda products because I think you need this now with especially the camera systems. Now, the driving dynamics, I said last time with the CX-5, it's definitely different compared to the prior generation. And you feel that. You definitely feel that. I know some people like to think of the CX-5 as being a bit more sporty and the handling is more engaging. I'm still going to stick with the CX-5 as being, for this generation, more softly tuned. And that's not too much of a problem here, considering that most of the CX-5 owners had the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. So they're just looking for a comfortable point A to point B vehicle. And this generation achieves that. It's just that it's come at the sacrifice of a softer suspension and I would say more of a, I don't know if softer would be the right term, but more of a looser steering here. So you're not going to have that on the edge of your seat experience out of the CX-5 anymore, at least with the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. However, though, when you are on the back roads, when you are in the twists and bends, it can handle them pretty well. Yes, there is some slight body roll here, but again, the CX-5 is tuned primarily for comfort. And also, as you get higher up in the trim levels, it's somewhat of an inch of a luxury crossover as well with its features. So I got to remember too that the people who are buying this product, what Mazda is trying to do, who they're trying to capture in this market, this would be the ideal choice for a lot of them over the CX-50. Whereas if you are an enthusiast and you want that great handling characteristic, you also want that turbo, the CX-50 would probably be the best choice for you for 2026. But I will say though that when you are behind the wheel, the technology doesn't override your driving experience. It just blends in with your peripheral vision. Also, of course, we have a head-up display as well, so we don't have to look down at the digital gauge cluster. Then also with the infotainment system, like I talked about before in prior reviews, the fact that it is Android-based, I'm used to it. So for me, it's not much of a learning curve. It's become second nature almost immediately. But I know for a fact that a lot of you hopping into this vehicle for the first time, maybe even from a last generation CX-5, take it easy. I understand your apprehension. So now that we're entering my favorite portion of these back roads, let's place it in sport mode. And throttle response gets a bit more aggressive. You can also tell that the 6-speed automatic holds onto the gears just a little bit longer. Unfortunately, since we had the preferred, we don't have paddle shifters. So you'd have to go with the Premium Plus for that if you want to rotate the gears yourself. However, even in sport mode, this crossover is still comfortable to drive. I personally think, though, that with Mazda, at least for their mainstream products, not so much with the CX-70 and CX-90, I would say that comfort or normal is the ideal choice because the 6-speed automatic, it's not a 7-speed dual clutch, it's not a ZF 8-speed automatic, so it's not going to be a dynamic transmission. Whereas with the 6-speed, it fits the personality of this crossover really well, where you're commuting to work, you're driving on longer road trips, or you're just dropping off the kids at school. So all you're really looking for is a comfortable and seamless driving experience. And the CX-5 achieves that here, even for this generation, despite the fact that we have seen some major changes here to the interior and also the overall technology. On throttle, it's pretty quick. I mean, off the line, all right, you know, you have the 9-second 0 to 60 time there, but when it's rolling, no issues, no issues. This is a lively 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Also take in consideration here that this CX-5 is still smaller than the Honda CR-V, and without the hybrid powertrain for the CR-V, that is a slow vehicle. So you're still gonna have some agility here with the CX-5. And then for the agility test, we're not gonna do anything too wild here with the CX-5. Into this sharp hairpin corner. Handles really well here. Some body roll into this corner. On throttle, pretty nice. I do think that maybe I was a little too harsh on the CX-5 the first time around, because it was a bit jarring, you know, considering what Mazda had done. And, you know, yes, it's not as sporty as it once was, but I'll tell you, it's not as boring as many crossovers at this price point, which is why I really like the Preferred. I really, really like the Preferred. And if you're someone who doesn't need all the gizmos, all the gadgets, you don't need a well-equipped model, and you also want a crossover that's not going to break the bank, that's what the Preferred, I think, is the smart choice. Really, honestly, all we're missing here out of this trim is a small power moonroof. That's really all we're missing. I think if you just added that, which would probably be like $1,200, now you're looking at 37 grand. And I think at that point, you'd pretty much have everything you could possibly want under one roof for a compact crossover such as this. But as I make my way back to the dealership, let's warp onto the highway and give you my thoughts on this trim. Then for those of you wondering about highway performance, obviously with the 19-inch alloy wheels, a bit more road noise when you are at highway speeds around 50 to 65 miles an hour, so definitely keep that in mind. It will be a trade-off though when you are upgrading from the Select, because with the Select you have the smaller tires but you don't have a well-equipped model, much like we have here with the Preferred, with the heated front seats, dual zone climate control, your smaller infotainment system, full digital gauge cluster, so you have a very well-equipped model. Then also with this powertrain, as I'm about to demonstrate there, good amount of performance to pass slower drivers and to safely lane change, obviously, get on the highway as well. So this is going to be the ideal choice because at $35,000, this is the best bang for your buck. And for highway performance, this is pretty good for a daily commuter. So guys, let me know what you think here about the 2026 Mazda CX-5 Preferred. Is this the best bang for your buck here in the lineup, or should you go with the Premium or Premium Plus? Let me know in the comment section below. But guys, once again, thanks so much for watching, take care, and I will see you guys next time.